Well, here we are, and who would have thought that software was going to make a massive bounce that it did? Plus, we had some good news from Iran as far as secretly coming to the CIA with an offer to end the war, aka surrendering. On top of that, we had a new Fed chair officially nominated. So, Fed chair Kevin Warsh, upon being accepted by the Senate, will be our next Fed chair and what that means to you. I will explain that all to you. And finally, we're going to get a little bit into Kraken Robotics. This has come up more than a few times in my feed. I kind of want to dig into it a little bit with you guys, along with talk about a recent acquisition that they announced yesterday and what it might mean for the future of Kraken Robotics. We all do know a few things about them, so we're going to kind of dig around it together and figure out what's going on. And finally, I did want to talk a little bit about Anthropic. They have like a $19 billion ARR, some news that came out yesterday. I want to play a cool clip, and that is obviously the thumbnail, the video. I mean, you have Giga Chad, or I guess Giga Dario on there looking all chiseled and everything. I don't know. This guy must be on like GLP-1 or something because he's losing some weight. But anyways, let us get right into it. How is everyone doing? What is going on? Omer, what's going on? Jake, Nick, how are you, sir? Alfie, Jake the Snake. I actually like that, Jake the Snake. That's one of the nicknames I gave to my buddy in high school. We actually talk pretty often, and yeah, his name is Jake, and I guess he is the Snake. He is still Jake the Snake. All right, so let's get into the show. The first thing that we're going to talk about over here is Anthropic, $19 billion ARR. They did release some news yesterday as far as how much they're getting. I do want to play the CNBC clip for you guys to kind of go over that a little bit longer and see what actually is happening with Anthropic and who the beneficiaries actually might be of this. There are a few companies out there that have stake in Anthropic, and they have like multi-bagged from then, and they'll, of course, continue to hold. So let's go ahead and take a look at the clip first, see what's going on over here on the panel.
Well, let's turn to Anthropic. Some new reporting surrounding its growing revenue numbers. Kate Rooney joins us now. My biggest question, Kate, is this before or after the fight with the Pentagon?
Right before, Sarah. These are sort of current numbers as of the last couple of weeks here, but really during, and you mentioned that face-off with the Pentagon. While that was happening, its AI business has been booming behind the scenes, at least from what we're hearing. I'm now hearing that Anthropic's annual revenue run rate, ARR, has topped $19 billion. It's nearing $20 billion. This is according to a source familiar with that company's financials. It's based on current performance, Sarah. So as you mentioned, during all of this back and forth with the Pentagon, up from $10 billion just at the end of last year. You look at a month ago, the run rate was $14 billion. When Anthropic closed its latest funding round, that valued the company at $380 billion. Anthropic's still not profitable. I'm told it's still losing billions per year. A source also telling me the revenue momentum is largely thanks to the success of Claude Code. So before the Pentagon spat, I mean, this was only a couple of weeks ago, the buzz around Anthropic was really around its coding capabilities. The improving features were one of the big factors spooking software investors and threatening their business models. Anthropic's momentum also really speaks to what's at risk here. With that Pentagon fight, the growth is under threat as the Pentagon now labels the company as a supply chain risk. We are seeing some defense companies dropping Claude after the Pentagon's announcement. Reuters now reporting that Lockheed Martin is expected to remove Anthropic's technology from its supply chain. CNBC.com has another look today at startups doing the same out of an abundance of caution. I am hearing similar themes for investors and CEOs in Silicon Valley. Their startups are now looking for alternatives, and many really built their companies, their startups, entirely on Claude, on that technology. The president also directed all government agencies to stop using Claude with a sort of 6-month ramp-off period. But for now, I am told by a source, U.S. military is still using Claude for operations in Iran, guys.
Although we continue to see reports, Kate, that it has been extracted from, say, Treasury, from Department of State, some other agencies, right?
Yeah, and it's entangled in a lot of these. I've talked to sources who say it's going to be a long time before they can sort of figure out how to replace Anthropic. That may be OpenAI based on them signing sort of a new government contract on Friday. But it can be tough to sort of, unwind some of this technology. And once it's really integrated with whether it's the government or an enterprise, I mentioned the sort of growth threat as we talk about that supply chain risk. A lot of these companies have been entirely built on top of Claude. You talk about sort of these wrapper AI startups that really are powered by AI. Claude has been seen as sort of the go-to for a lot of startups. So you have the government needing to unwind, potentially startups, potentially enterprises, and I think we're going to see long-term effects if that supply chain risk designation does actually stick.
All right, so they are obviously doing well in terms of their annual recurring revenue. Now, what does this actually mean for all of us, right? So let's take a step back over here. We had the largest sell-off we've had in IGV software ETF since 2022. And since then, I feel like we kind of bottomed over here. We're going to take a look at some charts in a minute, see how some software stocks are doing, which I think they're doing considerably good. And now it's kind of, I guess, being reversed here because now you have the government stepping in on Anthropic, trying to ban them from all this stuff. That was like the news last week. It was the news earlier this week as well. But I feel like that news is kind of dissipating a little bit as people start to realize, like, look, maybe this got a little bit out of hand, which is exactly what I was saying in my book. The question was, when is it actually going to end? To this day, we don't actually know when it's going to end, but there obviously is that underlying fear there that, look, when you have all this agentic AI and cloud capability, you could possibly reduce your overhead by paying all of these licenses. Apologies, I did not have my microphone right over here, so maybe that didn't sound too loud, but you could have all of these technologies basically work to be able to create an in-house app, which OpenAI did announce that they created an in-house data agent that many employees do use. So if we traverse this and project this onto other companies that are paying hundreds of millions of dollars collectively for software, maybe they don't need it if they're able to build something in-house. Now, my rebuttal against that is that, one, you're not going to build an internal cybersecurity tool and completely get rid of CrowdStrike or Palo Alto, whatever they use immediately. That's going to take a lot of time. It's going to have to go through compliance, because it's going to have to go through rigorous testing and so on. You have teams that you have to build around it in order to be able to get that into production, where that is now your cybersecurity product. CrowdStrike, Palo Alto, and all these companies already had their software vetted and tested, right? They already went through all the penetration tests it's supposed to. They already went through all the compliance, whatever it is. Of course, these companies have to go through the compliance when they onboard the software. But CrowdStrike did that work for you. You're not just buying the CrowdStrike Falcon application or platform. You're buying the whole thing. You're buying the fact that you have a multi-billion-dollar company that's done this for years, able to bring it to your table out of the box, vanilla, shipped and ready to go. You can't build an internal application with agentic AI in 2 weeks and just replace your entire system. That's going to take a lot of time. And I think that's where the market came in, where the market was fearful, like, oh my goodness, we don't need ServiceNow anymore because some internal employee or some engineer internally built an application in 2 weeks and we can roll that out. So now we don't need to pay millions of dollars to ServiceNow and Bill McDermott. We could just do this on our own. That's not how it's going to work. There's multiple workflows, multiple testing, and entire teams that are vetted out there to continuously iterate on this process to develop new features and push them out to production, support teams that make sure applications are working fine. On top of that, you have product management teams that are able to facilitate the transition of new features into the system, as well as fixing any bugs. There's a lot more to this that the market got ahead of itself. And in my opinion, it's very possible we might have saw a short-term bottom in IGV. I want to pull up some charts over here, take a look. I do not have any positions in IGV. I have positions in software companies that I've had for quite some time. So I'm going to continue to hold those. Let's take a look at the chart. We'll get a little bit more into it. Whoa, holy smokes. Let me actually share this real quick. Man, it looks like Indie Semiconductor is really taking a hit after that dilutive event they had yesterday. All right, so we have the S&P 500 up here at about 1%. Still, you know, while it is nice to have this massive bounce we've had here, especially off of the 100-day moving average, I believe No, that's the weekly. So the 100-day moving average, it did gap up above the 100-day moving average. We actually had one of the first closes below the 100-day. Actually, the first close below the 100-day moving average on SPY in a long time. You see here that have tested it multiple times, especially last November, but we've always had that massive rip to basically go up it. And we've seen it get bought over and over and over again every single time it dropped. And we continue to do the same here. But if you look over here on this chart, it looks better, but you have possibly either a chop more sideways or a trend continuation to go down, right? So we've seen this happen before where it recovers all the moving averages and boom, massive rejection. Not sure if that's going to happen, but this time around, what we do see is that the 20-day moving average moved below the 50-day moving average. So let's keep that on the radar. And the SP 500 now is selling above is trading above it's coming into the 50 EMA on the daily and still above the 9 and 21 EMA. All right, let's look on the weekly chart for the SP 500. Looks a lot more constructive, looks a lot more bullish. It would have been a nasty fall if we closed below the 21 EMA on the weekly. Let's take a look at the Qs over here. Qs constructively better. The Qs are obviously outperforming today, which is really good to see. If we drill down to some of the sectors over here on the SP 500, we can see, we can see here that financials are doing a lot better. However, they are still trading below the weekly 21 EMA, which is not really a good sign when you think of a downward trend. On the daily, financials are still not doing good, trading well below the 200-day moving average. So we do need that to continue happening. XLY, which is consumer discretionary, Amazon, and for the most part, it's Amazon and Tesla. Considerable bounce today. It's up about 2% here, trading above the 200-day moving average. XLK, which is your Apple, Microsoft, and NVIDIA, is trading back above the 20-day moving average and recovering some support here, bouncing off the 200-day moving average. So this was kind of an ideal point to get back in here. Now let's take a look at IGV. IGV continues to progress pretty positively here. And in my opinion, this is going to help support the bullish move in IGV. Now, it still overall is not a good looking chart. This is still a trending down chart, even though you're getting a little bit of an upheaval here, but you are back above the 21 EMA on the daily. In addition to that, on the weekly though, you have bounced off the 200 weekly moving average, which is considered as support and has been for quite some time. Obviously, you had the 2022 bear market, but you could see over here, it's traded above the 200 weekly moving average for quite some time and had its first test in years. I mean, like it didn't even come below the 200 a week last April. The last time I tested this was back in 2023. So that's very interesting to see this happen. Obviously, everyone remembers what happened last year when it got near there. It totally got bought up, but much different scenario because back here in April, the SP 500 was down 23% from its all-time highs on an intraday perspective. Today, it's down like 1 or 2% from its all-time highs. So it really doesn't make sense to me. I'm still a little bit cautious. I'm still holding my software positions, but under the hood for a lot of software stocks, things are definitely looking a lot better than they did last week. If I scroll down here to my software basket, we could see here that ServiceNow is trading around 115, which is obviously not a good looking chart still. If we do look on the daily, we did recover that 21 EMA and that 9 EMA. Oh, someone's trying to log into my trading view, as well as the 20-day moving average. So looking a lot better. One of the software stocks that you guys know I'm very bullish on is ZETA Global. Definitely looking a lot better, in my opinion. And I call this out on Twitter to the subscribers as far as what I'm seeing with ZETA. I did not size up in this position. I want to see some continuation here if we get back above these moving averages. I'd rather size up in terms of short-term calls if the market looks a lot healthier. And also if we get it back above the 50-day moving average. But this is certainly looking a lot better. And in my opinion, the company still trades pretty cheap. Palantir was the first to bottom out of all of these software stocks because they were used in terms of the Middle Eastern warfare when we attacked Iran. And they disclosed it, even with Anthropic, they disclosed it. And this thing has reversed course very, very rapidly. Palantir here on a volume candle has had pretty decent volume days before, and we're going to see this close out. We still have 1 more hour for the market to close, so it's likely not going to fill in this volume right here. And finally, I did enter a position yesterday, Amperis, which is more on the battery for drone technology in addition to other robotics. This is up about 7.5%. Shout out to the people who followed me on that one. That one's doing pretty well. One of the things that I did call out here is that it broke above these moving averages and closed well above them, which would probably facilitate further upside. So that position is doing quite well. Still sticking mostly to shares, but that is how far things are going on in my book. Same here. Did raise my cash positions of swing trading thanks to the sideways moving. Yeah, I mean, honestly, if you're like a trader, swing trading gets very difficult in these scenarios because of the fact that we've basically been shopping sideways since October. So if you're swing trading, you probably want to set stops a little bit closer here, and you probably want to take profit a lot sooner and just leave some runners on the table if you do want to do that sort of thing. For me, I'm trying to do some swing trading, but more on a longer time scale. But that does involve sitting through some chop, sitting through some short-term drawdown. But at the end of the day, we're still doing quite well in the year, and not as good as we were certainly doing at the beginning of the year, but certainly not nearly as bad as a lot of people who've gotten murdered out there. So I wanted to step into the next portion of the segment and go. We already went through the Anthropic 19 billion and what that might mean as an effect. We actually see here that Amazon is up about like 3% today, which is pretty crazy, but that's also good news because if you are having a resolution of the Strait of Hormuz incident, or Iran is basically under the radar surrendering to us, then it's possible that we might be able to see supply chain and logistics improve. Therefore, the uncertainty is off the table. So what does that mean for stocks? That means for e-commerce companies are generally going to do a lot better as long as the supply chain is not disrupted. These companies have to ship a lot of materials globally. Okay. So what is the number one scare when we think about the war? Okay. Honestly, I'm not going to be insensitive to the things that are happening out there. People are dying, innocent people are dying. Okay, I get it. But we're here to talk about the stock market. So let's discuss that. If you have conflict, especially in the Middle East, you are talking about a lot of fuel being used, a lot of tension on top of that. The fact that the Middle East, great exporters of the entire world of oil, are based over there. So you're disrupting that whole supply chain by having war. So actually, Stock Sniper explained this very well earlier on the BitGet space. And the thing that we need to remember is that if you have any type of disruption in terms of the oil logistics, that will cause an issue where supply gets constrained and demand goes higher. So in terms of the stock market, when you constrict supply and you increase demand, you are basically elevating the price of barrels of crude oil, which in this case, oil went up as much as $75 to $80. If that happens, there's an underlying fear that this is going to dissipate into other realms of the stock market. When you increase oil prices, that affects everything. It doesn't just affect travel, because if you think about transporting all these products around the entire world, that means they have to increase the cost to their clients. And if those clients have to increase the prices of their goods, that means they have to pass those costs over to the consumer. And if the consumer sees higher prices, they might either buy less or they might not buy at all. And if that happens, revenues go down. If revenues go down, earnings go down. And that is the effect of seeing higher oil prices in the stock market. Of course, there is the Fed in this scenario and so on, but that is the downstreaming effect of seeing higher oil prices. Inflation leads to higher prices. Higher prices means a more strained consumer. A more strained consumer in a very fierce consumer-driven economy will lower GDP and therefore lower output, meaning that the Fed might not increase rates as much if inflation stays sticky. It is always the Fed, guys. 99% of the time, it is the Fed. Don't fight the Fed, all right? So I'm going to hammer that one home. You probably heard that so many times, and I apologize. I've actually been talking so much, and I'm not really feeling well today. But yeah, let's move on to the next segment. Actually, I want to touch on this. So, market is overly optimistic for the resumption of the Strait of Hormuz, CNBC, but also other sources. No, that's very true. I mean, when you think of the pendulum swinging back and forth, okay, people get very bearish. And then what happens? The pendulum swings back. It doesn't have to swing all the way back in terms of physics, and especially in the stock market. but things tend to bounce very quickly and form like a V-shaped bottom. The problem is that the pendulum can easily swing back. And that's where the biggest question about all this is, will the pendulum swing back? For me, I'm still a little cautious. I'm not trying to press anything crazy. I've been pretty defensive the whole year, not trying to go balls to the wall bullish or anything like I have been since April into like late last summer. October was like the, hey guys, or hey Sam, you need to like chill out with a lot of the trading and call buying and everything like that. That was like the line in the sand for me. And that continues to be the case this year. All right, so let's move on to the next segment. Warsh is officially nominated as the Fed chair. All right, I actually had some. I had a tweet that I released on this one. Oops, I'm on the wrong account. All right, so here we go. Oh, that's not mine. All right. Over here. So we had Kevin Warsh nominated as the new Fed chair, which of course the nomination letter came from the president's office, and he has to get voted into the Senate before he serves 14 years, which would start from the nomination February 1, 2026. So 14 years is a long time. Can you really believe that like Jerome Powell was the Fed chair for 14 years? Like it's so weird to fathom that, because when we think of the Fed, we've been thinking about Powell, and now we're going to think about Kevin Warsh. Like it's going to be weird fathoming that. But of course, we have all of the memes and everything that will start coming. Kevin Warsh is he's portrayed as being pro crypto. Now, is he actually going to enact on those beliefs? We'll see. But crypto is certainly rising since then. Actually, let's take a look at the crypto chart real quick, and let's take a look at some technical analyses over here. All right here. So we have over here crypto is at 73.5K. That's a monster green candle, guys. Like that is like, wow. That's actually one of the largest volume candles we've seen since basically last February when we had that massive drop in crypto. This is a huge candle over here. So it still needs to get back above. It needs a lot of work here on the daily. I mean, it's nice to see that it's above the short-term trend lines. But we do need to see some recovery here on the weekly chart. Like this still is a horrendous chart. So like, am I buying crypto right now? No, I already added like very small size to my long-term portfolio in crypto, but I don't plan to do. Oh, wow. BMNR is up 10%. Kudos to people who might have caught the dip in that one. But I mean, geez, unless you like waited until yesterday to buy BMNR, like you are just red in this position. So guys, you got to be careful what you tack on when you're trading stuff in the stock market. Also like what you're buying, like do your due diligence, do your research, and don't like FOMO into stuff because all your friends and all your buddies are buying it. You know, do your own research, build your own conviction. And if you really did have that conviction, you'd have no problem holding. In fact, you'd probably add to the position if you really did believe in the BMNR thesis. But if you didn't and you held, well, I'm sorry. I mean, I don't say, like, lesson learned, I guess. But crypto is looking a lot better today than it did yesterday. That weekly chart actually isn't that bad either, but we still needed some volume developing on this candle. This is a daily chart, weekly chart. It still has some volume it needs to develop. Like this was like a massive like sell over here. Like look at all this volume on the weekly, right? Like this is, you don't want to knife catch this. You want to kind of buy it, or I would probably start swinging if you like start recovering the 100-day moving average over here. But it is nice to see that we didn't go below the 200-week, but we are well below all the moving averages. With that being said, Kevin Warsh is pro Bitcoin. He believes that Bitcoin constitutes or could be a store of value. He's not like a Bitcoin maxi bull or anything, but he certainly is not afraid of it. He said it many times in previous interviews. The thing that Wall Street really needs to keep an eye on, or that we need to keep an eye on with Kevin Warsh, is how in favor is he going to be of monetary expansion? Okay, is he planning to not constrict the balance sheet? Because when you think about QT or quantitative tightening, you're literally taking liquidity out of the system. But if he is expanding monetary policy, or if he's he's facilitating the monetary spending toward fiscal policies, basically funding the government through buying their treasuries, then that could definitely be a lot more upside in the stock market if that does continue. That's the big question, right? What is he going to do when he gets in office? Now, again, you guys already know me. I'm not going to sit over here and tell you like what is going to happen, right? I can tell you what I think is going to happen, but nothing's ever for certain. And like I say all the time, guys, if someone tells you that they know exactly what's going to happen, like, stop. Like, don't listen to that person. Don't follow them. Don't listen to them. No one is ever right 100% of the time. People are usually wrong, but we're in a game of probabilities, okay? Where if you have like a 56% chance that something's going to happen and you take a bet 100 times on it, you have your edge. You're going to win 6%, actually more than, you're going to win about 12% more than how much you're going to lose. The thing is that you need to make more money when you win and lose less when you lose. So basically, you need to admit you're wrong. And holding BMNR through a 50% plus drawdown, 60% drawdown, you better believe what you're buying, or you better have conviction on what you're buying. Otherwise, you don't know if it's going to be 60 bucks again. Okay. So you got to be careful with that. You got to be careful with that. Am I covering Broadcom? Oh, wait, do they actually report earnings today? Let's take a look at the earnings hub. Shout out to Earnings Hub. Those guys are awesome. Broadcom reports earnings today. I am not covering it though. Hold on a second. Yeah, so we have okay. So Broadcom is reporting earnings today, which is pretty cool. So is RGTI, Rigetti, quantum computing. Quantum computing is like, I mean, there's obviously a belief to it that I just don't see when it comes to quantum computing. It's very difficult for me to be bullish quantum computing, to be completely honest, because we've heard arguments from both sides. But I mean, if I were to bet on quantum computing, it would just be IONQ. It wouldn't be like Rigetti or any of these like other crazy quantum computing names. But I mean, who knows, guys? Who knows? AEO. Oh, wow. Sydney Sweeney's reporting today. That's an interesting one. Weeble's reporting today. Okta, cybersecurity companies reporting today. Competitor of CyberArk. Viva Systems reporting today. That's healthcare software, basically. I mean, to be honest, a lot of these software companies are reporting today. It looks like the market is back when it comes to some of this stuff. So I wouldn't be surprised if those gap up tomorrow after the earnings. And what is this one right here? Microvision? Never heard of that one. That's an interesting one. I like to look up a lot of these small stuff. Oh, PAGS, Brazilian bankers reporting earnings today, and a lot of other companies as well. Like, dude, I haven't, like, you know how many stocks there are on the stock market? Like, this is crazy. I never heard of half of these companies. And this is why I prefer to buy things that are like more down here than like the things that are all the way up here, like Broadcom. I mean, I guess that would have worked a couple years ago. I used to own Broadcom and I used to trade it, but like I don't. The valuation is, I think the valuation is fair value as it is right now. Obviously, look like 2 or 3 years into the future, the valuation might look a little bit more attractive, but it would. You're not really going to get a double in Broadcom without like the entire stock market going up. So. That might be Michigan's edge. Genie reported this morning. They're down 6%. That's unfortunate. Yeah, so tomorrow is going to be pretty important. So is today, obviously. Broadcom's reporting today. Marvell Technologies reporting tomorrow as well. Costco, IoT or Samsara, Gap, and a bunch of other stuff. Petrobras, Guidewire, and a few other companies are reporting tomorrow. So I'm not going to be doing those live, but I'm sure Amadeus will. So, you know, feel free to check his channel out. I'm sure he's going to be doing it live for Broadcom as he does every single day. Any new thoughts on the Rubrik cybersecurity? I have to crowd check earnings. Yeah, I mean, I have to kind of check, but you know, this is being pulled down with software as a whole. So this really is not much I can say about this. I've already talked about the theme many times. Which Mag 7 do you own? I own Amazon. I own Meta. I think that's about it as far as my Mag 7 stocks. You're not really going to get a double or triple on these Mag 7 stocks. So I prefer to look for mid cap stuff. And that's where most of my alpha has been this year and last year, or toward the end of last year, as is like the mid cap scene. All right. So if you guys are on here, if you're on YouTube, go ahead and check out the Wolf Financial channel. It is youtube.com/@wolf_financial, where there's tons of videos, tons of content, tons of interviews, and a lot of great stuff. Of course, you could find the repository of my videos on the Wolf Financial channel or my channel as well. But if you're on Twitter, let's definitely show some love off the other platforms. And if you haven't liked and subscribed the video, go ahead and do that. I do stream 4 days a week at least. Tomorrow, I have a very experienced trader who shows up on CNBC a lot. She is going to be a guest tomorrow, and Friday, I do have an additional guest who's a retail trader, very much into aligned with my methodology of trading stocks and investing. So I'm very excited to have both of those people on for the next couple of days. So I will be streaming live for the next couple of days. So that's definitely some good news for you guys right here. All right. So the next part of the segment, we are going to discuss Kraken Robotics. So Kraken had some news that it delivered yesterday. So let me share this screen over here. I know a lot of you guys are big fans of Kraken Robotics. To be completely honest, it's not a name that I'm particularly interested in buying right now, but it is interesting to see the theme of this company actually coming to fruition. All right, so Kraken Robotics announced signing of a strategic acquisition to expand global maritime capabilities. $615 million acquisition of Covella Group will be partially financed through $350 million public offering of subscriptions receipts. So half cash, half financing, right? So I believe that is the going thing for this one. Actually, so yeah, okay. So $135 million in common shares, $480 million will be paid in cash, and then the rest is going to be financed, of course, which is going to be part of the $480 million. And what this actually brings is combined revenue after the acquisition is going to be $365 million in 2025 and combined adjusted EBITDA of 24%, acquiring a high growth of 24% CAGR since 2023. So what we do know with this is that Kraken Robotics does focus more on maritime defense, or specifically warfare. They do have contracts with Anduril. In fact, they're one of the major suppliers of Anduril. I know a lot of you people are bullish on it. And to be honest, you probably know a lot more than I do. But I think the thing that really stands out with this is the thematic approach, not only on defense, but also the capability of using underwater warfare to in the Iran war. So I wanted to play this clip that is from the Secretary Pete Haggett's, the U.S. Secretary of Defense. And he discusses recent development that we've had, actually somewhat of a victory that we've had as far as underwater warfare.
Yesterday in the Indian Ocean, and we'll play it on the screen there, an American submarine sunk an Iranian warship that thought it was safe in international waters. Instead, it was sunk by a torpedo. Quiet death. The first sinking of an enemy ship by a torpedo since World War II. Like in that war, back when we were still the War Department, we are fighting to win. Also, yesterday, the leader of the unit who attempted to assassinate President Trump has been hunted down and killed. Iran tried to kill President Trump, and President Trump got the last laugh. Now, this is not a mission accomplished situation. This is simply a reality check. The combination of U.S. and Israeli intelligence and combat power will control Iran, and will control it soon.
All right. So we obviously have a lot of development as far as government budget investing toward defensive companies. Lockheed Martin, Raytheon, Anduril, Palantir, of course, Anthropic was used in terms of warfare. And also, we don't know if there's any direct investment in it. But if Kraken does continue to show bullish moves in terms of how much they are putting toward the defensive budget, and we find that underwater warfare, like you said, the first time we've seen a torpedo sink down a ship in underwater warfare in a long time, in decades, could be something interesting to look at. For me personally, I am not particularly interested in investing in, oh, he's not live today? All right, I'll check that out. We'll see. I was just reading something quick. Market closed is closed. Nice one. So I need to, I lost my train of thought for a minute there. Damn, if he's not doing it, maybe I should do it. Bring the stuff to you guys. We'll see. I'll send him a message, see if he's doing it. If not, maybe I will be streaming the Broadcom earnings. We will see. But anyways, guys, if Kraken Robotics is part of this bull case with underwater warfare, which I know Stock Talk's been looking into a company for underwater warfare, I don't think he would be particularly interested in this one. I mean, we'd have to check with him on it, but this could be a possible play. I'm more of someone, a picks and shovels person. So like, who are their suppliers? as far as Kraken Robotics. Let's actually take a look at this tweet from Michael Seekan, who is part of the Wolf Crew, and he's very much into Kraken Robotics. Oh, my screen messed up. All right, so he says over here, and I'll share the post with you guys on the stream. There you go. Yeah, so that's Michael Seekan. Go ahead and give him a follow if you're bullish Kraken Robotics. I mean, it's definitely something you want to deep dive into. Oh, okay, so maybe I will do the stream tonight. I need to take a little bit of a break before I do, so I'll probably end this one early and then do that stream in a little bit, if anything. But what we have here is a lot more information that really comes from the release, but he also has his thoughts about it. Cavella's Sonardyne subsidiary also powers Anduril's subsea drones and seabed sentry, increasing Kraken's supply lock-in revenue from potential Anduril. All right, actually, let's take a look at a Kraken chart. Let me replace the screen over here. I was actually surprised that it was red this morning, considering how bullish this news was, right? Like, wouldn't it be green if it was so bullish? But sometimes the market doesn't keep up with it. This is a pretty bullish chart. Wow, even bounced off the 50 EMA on there. Huh, that's a lot of volume too on the daily. Coming up pretty big volume on the weekly. Oh, wow, pretty decent chart. Your boy might have to take a look at this one now. Look how long this company's been public for the last, this is like a multi-year breakout. This is insane, right? And then they're a $2 billion company. So then they're going to have 600. That means they're trading at a price to sales forward about 3 times. It's not bad. Your boy might have to take a look at this one. Your boy might have to check this out. We will check this out. I will bring that news to you later on. I actually want to have Michael Seekan on here. I reached out to him to see if he's available today. Very last minute, but hopefully he's available at some point in the future, and then we can attack this this Kraken Robotics bull case. I mean, I think that there was actually someone at Amit's meetup event who talked to me about Kraken. He was like uber bullish it. I apologize, I forgot your name, but the dude had a beard. He was like uber bullish Kraken. And he was buying the low single digits. So he's probably very happy today. We'll check this out. Sam will check this out. Yeah, man, put it on your watch list. I'm going to put it on my watch list too. That's going to be on my watch list. All right, guys. So that about does it for today. I haven't decided if I'm going to stream today, but if you're on my Twitter, you'll find out if I'm streaming today. Of course, go ahead and subscribe to the channel, the Wolf channel as well. Show some love over to the Wolf guys. Those guys are bringing all great and new things. The stocks on Spaces is going right now, but I will check to see if I have availability to do the market close today. Anyway, guys, thank you very much for coming. Really appreciate